Hey all, Heretic here, and patch 26.4.3 just dropped now, and it will be live by the time this gets out there. So take a look. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of big changes here, so I want to jump right in and get to the good meaty stuff here. Let's go. Right off the bat, we have Aranna getting a big hero change. So the hero power they had before, which was after 5 refreshes, Bob always has 7 minions in the shop. That is gone. That has been replaced. And the new one is after 16 friendly minions attack, the first minion you buy every turn is free. Now, I certainly didn't love Aranna's hero power before, but at least it was interesting, it was different, and it did work. I just wasn't a big fan of it personally. This change here, I feel like this quest is going to get made easier to complete at some point, but I feel like in the right lobby, this can be relatively useful. I mean, if you have a lobby with a lot of tokens in it that can die pretty quick so your guys get to attack faster, that means you're going to be getting a free minion every turn. Well, if you compare that to a hero like Murk that is giving you a free reroll every turn, a free minion's even better. And Murk is a pretty consistent hero. While not exciting to play, is always effective and not bad. So, I mean, this doesn't look exciting, but I think in the long run, this could be very valuable. And I think the quest probably should go down a little bit to like maybe 13 or 12. But we'll see. Maybe we'll get some games in and be like, no, 16 was kind of perfect. It's done relatively quick. Curator got a bit of a change. Their old hero power used to be start the game with a 2/2 minion of all types. It is now starting the game with a 1/1 minion of all types that is venomous. So the hero power itself was never really exciting. I kind of only liked playing Curator really in the buddy meta and kind of find it lackluster, especially once they put in the mistake minion, because already you're getting a free mistake, and now it's even got less stats. Yeah, true, it's got venom, but in the early game, who cares? I don't really love this. I think I'll play Curator even less, but in the right lobby, if you're in a lobby where there are no undead, beast, mech, stuff like that, there's not many tokens, there's not a whole lot of that, you can get some value out of the venom, at least as a scam in the later game. So it does have potential. ETC got a little bit of a nerf since the hero power went down to 3 cost. Obviously, they're doing better. And now that because of that, they have to make their buddy a little harder to get. Now their buddy used to be a tier 3, now it's tier 5, so it's going to take longer to get on average. And the reason for that being is if you can get buddies cheaper, you're more likely to get more buddies. And then if you can make one of them gold, the effect is that much better. Thus from tier 3 to tier 5. Not a huge change, but definitely something that will make the ETCs a little less rampant in their gold amazing buddy pool. And a small update, just a little tiny one, but Aranna and Curator, their armor is now 10. That makes them, to me, both a far less playable in the current meta, but once they get adjusted, either their armor is raised to say 18, maybe 15 to 20, then we'll talk about it. But for now, they're there. I don't know if I'd risk playing them if you care about your ranking too much, though. Flourishing, Frostling is getting another buff. We've already seen this buff once, and it's getting the buff again. So instead of being a 0.5, it is now a 0.6. Everything else is exactly the same. They just gave it yet another point of health. It's never one of those minions I'm excited to play, but I mean, it at least has a chunk of health. It can carry you through the early game, so it's not a nightmare when the rest of your shop is garbage. It's just not exciting. Hummingbird got a little bit more survivability also, went from a 0.3 to a 0.5 stat line. Once again, nothing exciting, just to make it a little more durable. I do like this change because Hummingbird is kind of lackluster when it's this on the board and it's a 0.3 and it gets tagged by anything and dies. At least now it has a chance to survive while you're looking for a taunt if you're using this. Eternal Knight got a little buff, went from a 3.1 to a 4.1, otherwise the same. I felt Eternal Knight was fine. I don't really see the need for this change, but I'm assuming their numbers showed something else. We'll see how it plays out. I actually kind of like this change a lot. Scarlet Skull went from being a 1/2 to a 2/1. And there's nothing more annoying than having your Scarlet Skull, which doesn't have taunt, run into an enemy minion and then survive. And then you're sitting there going, well, that was fun. I think this makes it a little bit more balanced. I feel like it is far more viable now. I never complain about getting Scarlet Skull. Once again, it's just another card I didn't really care about. Now it has a better chance to find a place on my board. A lot of people were anticipating the Soul Rewinder nerf. They thought maybe the tier would change. They thought maybe the effect would change. And no, the only thing they changed were the stats. It went from a 3.1 to a 2.1. I feel like this is a big deal because I, amongst other people, felt like it was going to get hit with something a little different. I hate the fact that you need to have this minion essentially to play early game demons and even some of the late game builds, but we're still going to have to keep it. It's the design they just came up with, so I'm sure they don't want to throw it out just yet. I just don't think this change, if you feel like demons are a problem, this is going to resolve any of it. Radio Star got hit a little bit with the nerf bat, went from a 2-1 to a 1-1. So it's now a tier 3 1-1. And I know the effect is only thing you really care about. The stats are very secondary and you're concerned when you're using Radio Star, but a 1-1 on tier 3 kind of sucks. I didn't love it as a 2-1, but I was still taking it. As a 1-1? I mean, I know the goal is it to die anyways, but it'd still be nice if it could kill something on the way out, but we'll see. If you get it super early, it's still not bad, but I'm definitely a lot less excited when I see it pop up now. Accord-o-tron got a little bit of a buff. It went from a 2-3 to a 3-3. Now, I feel like Accord-o-tron, because of the economy it's giving you, actually makes it a 2-3 just fine. But I'm guessing since it's tier 3, they feel like maybe a 2-3 stat line isn't really right for a tier 3 minion. But they just made a tier 3 minion a 1-1 in our previous discussion. So who knows what they're really thinking. Prickly Piper got a little bit of a change. Not buff, not a nerf. I think it's better because now there's more in the game. So I'm going to call it a buff. But they went from tier 4 6-3 to tier 3 5-2. Now I like this because who cares what their health is? We want them to die. That's the whole point of them. And if they're tier 3, there's more of them. And every time I try to do the Quillbore thing, if I'm not doing the silly Rylak stuff with the other one, it's hard to get the effect for Quillbore. So putting this into the game earlier, making there be more of them, I feel like is very healthy for Quillbore players out there. And I'll be more excited now when I see one. Handless Forsaken got a little bit of a change. They went from tier 4 2-3 to a tier 3 2-1. Obviously, there's survivability never really was why you bought these. It's because they kick out a bunch of tokens. Putting it tier 3 means there's more of them, so I'm happy about that. But usually I'm not wanting to buy these until after I have a Nubarak anyways. This is not a bad minion. You're still going to get a bunch of value if you're running any kind of Avenge build or Avenge hero power. So definitely gives you more to work with. It's just, once again, not really an exciting minion. It's kind of like a middle of the road. You're like, I got a Handless Forsaken. Now, if you've had a Nubarak for 2 turns, you're loving it, but we'll see. I think this is going to be a positive change. It's just not exciting. Rylak Metalhead got a nerf. But is it enough? I feel like Rylak is often a trap, and more people who try to do it fail than succeed. So this is probably a significant nerf, but I'm still waiting to see how it all plays out in the end. Basically, it has the exact same effect, the exact same stats. They just took them from tier 3 to tier 4, which means there's less of them, which is always a good thing. But at the same time, the shenanigans can still happen. But I think because they'll be coming a little later, because there's less of them, we're not going to be dealing with as much BS as we were before. Malchadzar, the Prince of Dance, got nerfed. Well, yeah, for the most part, I'll just call this a nerf. This is definitely a nerf. They went from tier 3 5-2 stats to tier 4 6-3. Same effect for refreshing. Still a very good card. To be honest with you, I kind of feel like this belongs more on tier 4, especially when you triple this, the 4 refreshes that cost health. Who cares? You're usually running a Rewinder. They didn't change Rewinder, so Malchadzar is still great. Scrap Scraper got hit with the nerf bat pretty hard. And I'm going to say it's still a decent minion. It's just not the potential it was before. Now, it's good the first time you get it when you don't have a bunch of Death Rattles and Reborn, but it's not as effective as it once was. But there are ways you can still cheat with it. Scrap Scraper was a 3-6, Avenge 4, get a random magnetic mech. It is now a 3-7. At the end of your turn, get a random magnetic mech. So you're guaranteed a mech every turn, and it is an end of a turn effect. So if you get a Dracarian Chanter, you're going to be getting double the mechs out of it. You're often like using those with the utility bot anyways, so couple these together have just made Dracarian Chanters even more desired for mech players, because getting 2 to 4 mechs because you have it on the board, plus all those stat increases from all those mechs, seems pretty damn good to me. So if you still want Scrap Scraper, which is still a decent card, I would definitely be looking for a Dracarian Chanter if you can find room for it, because that's big value. Now, Xylo-Bones got a buff, and I was excited to see when they said in the teaser, Xylo-Bones is getting a buff. I'm like, yes, because I have never seen Xylo-Bones really on a winning board. Now, I've seen them in the late game here and there, but they're never a big end comp. This is one of the big sexy minions I have. it goes from being a 5/1 to a 6/1 with the same effect. Maybe the other changes that have happened earlier to other minions will help buff Xylo-Bones and make them more effective. I'm still just not excited to have this card ever on my board. In a big nerf, because there's less of them, but it's a lot less of them. Upbeat Duo goes from a 4/4 to a 6/6 stat line, but now is tier 5 instead of tier 4, so there's a lot less of them. You're getting them a lot later. Can it still be valuable? Of course. You get one of these early enough, you're still going to get value. But when these first came out, I believe they were tier 3. You could get them a lot earlier before. Even now at 5, it's probably finally going to stop them. We're still going to have where they give you a high roll potential when you get them early enough and you have the right card to make copies of, but it's not going to be insane like it was before. Finally, Upbeat Duo might have been reined in. And Utility Drone, which I feel like its effect is kind of where its value's at, but it goes from a 4/5 stat line to a 6/7, same exact effect. It does bring the stat line more in line with tier 5 minions, but at the same time, the effect is why you buy this thing. They could make this thing a 2/2 if you got enough magnetics. You don't care, you're gonna put it on your board, but I'm not gonna complain about extra stats on my backline mechs. Bongo Bopper got a buff. Went from being a 5/5 at the end of the turn to get 1 blood gem and play 2 more on this, to a 6/5 at the end of your turn, get 2 blood gems and 2 more on this. I've never really been excited about Bongo Bopper, and I never really want it on my board, but it does give it a bit of blood gem generation. And if you could triple this thing at 4, that's pretty good. And it's an end of turn effect again, so Kripparrian Enchanter still has value there too. I do like this. There's definitely some fun that can be had with this. I feel like this is a good change. I feel like this minion has never been that exciting. And giving it a little bit more blood gem, generation might make this more viable. Bristleback Knight got a little bit of a buff, went from a 5/8 stat line to a 6/9. Not massive, but it kind of brings it in line more with where we're at right now. I do like this card. I've always enjoyed it when I'm getting to play Quillbore and this thing pops up early. So I think giving more value to this in the line of stats is going to bring it in line with where we're kind of at right now in the game, because he's kind of fallen off, in the recent meta. Gusty Trumpeter got a buff, went from a 4/5 to a 6/7. This card is a utility card. This is for cycling, and then you get free cards. But anything that makes it more viable, and if you triple into this, your other 2 options aren't really options. At least it's got a better stat line to help you, maybe win a fight or not lose that early damage, so you can actually get value out of having to sell 5 elementals. That's a lot. So you need to have a stat line that'll actually support giving you that time. I feel like this brings it a little closer to that, and this is probably a good number. Play some games, see how it feels. Lightfang Enforcer finally got a change. This card has been in the game, as far as I know, Battlegrounds since launch. Back in the day, it was an MVP. It was something everybody wanted, but it's always been kind of sad on the stat line. It's kind of, if you are using this, and usually why, it's a bumper card. Well, it does the same exact buff, so it's still kind of subpar in that regard, but it does have a 4/4 body now, so it gives it a little bit more of a punch when you have to play this. I am happy with the Lightfang Enforcer change. I'm still just not happy when this is the best thing offered to me and I have to play this. Polarizing Beatboxer, a card I was always excited to get, got buffed. It goes from being a 3/7 to a 5/10. This does bring it very much in line with tier 6 minions. I do like this change. I feel like if you triple into some of these and you just don't happen to have any magnetics just yet, it does suck. But now it makes it a little bit more viable with that, a little bit more attack and health. Sister Deathwhisperer got a buff, goes from being a 4/9 after a friendly minion is reborn, give your undead +1/+2 permanently, to 4/10 after a friendly minion is reborn, give your undead +1/+3 permanently. Once again, not a huge change, but a good change. A little bit more survivability and the extra health, giving more health to your minions as they die. I feel like this is a nice change. They didn't move it too far, too fast, and all of a sudden it's overpowered. Move that a little bit and see what it does to the meta. Undead have been suffering, and a little bit of health wouldn't hurt them. This might not surprise anybody, but Fleet Admiral Tethys got a nerf. And as someone who likes to play APM pirates, I don't care about the nerf that much. Yeah, they did make it a little harder to do, but you're still going to be getting the value. It's going to be harder because you're going to see less upbeat, duos, but you're going to still be trying to do this because it's fun. Everyone likes APM, so of course, we're still going to try to do this. So originally it was after you spend 8 gold, get a random pirate. Now it is after you spend 9 gold, get a random pirate. It is a difference. It means you will get less pirates, but you still can have fun. You still can do it. They didn't nerf it into the ground and make it like 12 gold. They just made it one more. Let's see how it plays and if it's still viable. Internal Summoner got a little bit of a buff. Goes from a 6-1 to an 8-1. I feel like this puts it in line with other tier 6 minions. It still has no health because its object of this is to die. You still can buff it with other minions. So I feel like these are good changes because undead, as we've seen lately, have not been performing very well. Young Murk Eye got a little bit of a buff. I'm not really surprised. You don't really see any young Murk Eyes on the board. I'm not sure if this buff is going to save young Murk Eye, but at least makes him a little more survivable and a little harder hitting. Goes from a 7-4 to a 9-6 with the same exact effect. And just a couple quick changes, minion pool updates. Incorporeal Corporal has been removed from the minion pool and replaced with the Rothhide Gnoll. Incorporeal Corporal was one of those minions that you either were super happy when your opponent got to go first and then it won you a fight, or you were super annoyed because this was the best thing to buy and of course you swung first. They had a Death Rattle, they had Reborn. You lose. I like the Rothhide Gnoll better. The Corporal certainly had their place. I just didn't love it when I had to put them on board. Not that I'm super excited about Rothhide Gnoll either, but I feel like Rothhide Gnoll is more in line with what a tier 1 minion should be as opposed to the Incorporeal Corporal. So what did you think? Do you like these changes? Are you excited about them? I personally think these are some exciting changes that are going to bring the meta in line a little better. We're going to buff some of the weaker tribes. We're going to nerf some of the stronger ones. I feel like almost all of these changes are good and healthy for the game. Some of them, as always, are a little perplexing, and you're like, really? We're going to change that? Lightfang needs to be a 4-4? That's going to be what fixes Lightfang? Sure. But otherwise, I feel like overall, these are really good changes in putting the game in a nice, healthy position. What do you think? Are you in line with my thoughts, or do you think they suck and you think these all need to be changed and bigger things need to happen? Tell me what you think. Thanks for watching. I hope you had a good time. I'll catch you next time. Later.